All right, so today we're taking a look at the 2025 Ford F-250 Super Duty. We got a pretty in-depth review from the Truck Report Geeks podcast to really do a deep dive into. And by the end of this, I think you'll know if this truck is the right fit for you. First thing that jumped out at me from the review was how surprisingly agile it is for its size. Not exactly a sports car, but definitely not a lumbering beast either.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive how much goes into making these heavy-duty trucks handle well.
Mhm.
Like the F-250 have this advanced suspension system designed to absorb bumps and dips on the road, so even with a heavy load, it gives you a pretty smooth ride.
Yeah, that makes sense. Though the review did mention it can be a little bouncy on rougher roads and the steering can feel a little vague sometimes. But overall, it sounds like it's a pretty confident and comfortable driving experience. Now,
Hmm.
let's talk about what's under the hood. This thing has got some serious power right over.
Oh, absolutely. And when you're talking about raw power, you got to talk about the diesel engines. They just churn out this massive 1,200 pound-feet of torque. It's kind of like trying to stop a Ferris wheel from turning. That's the kind of force we're talking about here.
Wow, that's a powerful image. Okay, so we know this truck's powerful, but like what does that actually mean? What can you do with all that power?
Well, for one, you can tow pretty much anything you can think of. It's got a best-in-class towing capacity of 22,000 pounds. So you could tow like two fully loaded Hummer EVs without breaking a sweat.
Okay, so towing a couple electric SUVs is no problem. But what about how much you can actually put in the bed of the truck?
Right. That's where payload comes in.
Yeah.
And the F-250's got you covered there, too. With a max payload of over 4,200 pounds, you could haul a ton of building materials. Or enough camping gear to last you a month.
Yeah, sounds like you could pretty much live out of this thing. But here's the thing. The review mentioned we don't have any EPA fuel economy estimates yet.
Yeah, that's because the F-250 actually weighs too much for the EPA's normal testing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a mystery for now.
Mm-hmm.
But based on older models and just the sheer size of this thing, you can bet fuel efficiency won't be its best feature.
Right. So you're trading off some fuel economy for all that power and capability. But speaking of comfort, what's the interior like?
Well, the interior of the F-250 is really focused on practicality and comfort, especially for long drives. It's not trying to be super flashy or luxurious like some of its competitors. You've got 3 different cab styles and seating options to choose from, so you can really make it fit your needs.
Okay, I like that it's adaptable. And what about cargo space? I mean, with a truck this big, I'd expect you could fit a lot in the back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There are 2 bed lengths you can choose from, and both of them offer a lot of space, so you'll have plenty of room for all your stuff.
So we got a powerful, capable truck with plenty of space. But is it reliable? Reliability is a big deal, especially for a work truck like this.
That's a great point. And the F-250 seems to do pretty well there. J.D. Power gave it a reliability rating of 83 out of 100, which is considered great. So that's a good sign this truck's built to last and handle tough jobs.
That's good to hear. Now, how about safety? I know these bigger trucks aren't always subject to the same crash testing as regular vehicles.
Yeah, you're right. We don't have data from the NHTSA or IIHSS yet, which is pretty typical for this class of truck. But Ford has loaded the F-250 with a ton of advanced safety features, like blind spot monitoring, a surround view camera system, and automatic emergency braking. These systems can be really helpful, especially when you're driving a truck this large.
Yeah, I bet those features would come in handy, especially in tight spaces. So it sounds like the F-250 has a lot to offer. Power capability, space, and a focus on safety, but how does it stack up against the competition?
Well, that's where things get interesting. Let's start with the Chevrolet Silverado 2500 HD. The Silverado actually comes standard with a bunch of safety features, like forward collision warning, automatic emergency braking, and lane departure warning, which the F-250 doesn't offer standard.
So it sounds like the Silverado might have an edge in terms of standard safety features, but how about towing capacity? Can it match the F-250 there?
Not quite. The Silverado's a capable truck, for sure, but it doesn't reach the same towing capacity as the F-250 with its 22,000 pounds.
Okay, so if towing is your top priority, the F-250 is still the king. But what about the Ram 2500? That one's known for having a pretty luxurious interior, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. The Ram 2500 is like the luxury king in this segment. The cabin is beautiful with high-quality materials everywhere. You almost feel like you're driving a luxury SUV instead of a heavy-duty truck.
So we've got the Silverado focused on safety, the Ram 2500 going for luxury, and the F-250 all about power and capability. Seems like there's a truck for every need out there.
Exactly. Picking the right heavy-duty truck really boils down to what matters most to you.
Well, we've covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive, from the F-250's power and capabilities to how it compares to some of its main competitors. But there's still a lot more to explore. In the next part, we'll take a look at the F-250's different trim levels, focusing on the Lariat trim and why it might be the sweet spot for a lot of buyers, so stay tuned. All right, welcome back. Last time we were checking out the F-250's power and capability, but now let's get into the different trim levels. And we'll focus specifically on the Lariat trim, which seems like it could be a good fit for a lot of folks.
Yeah, you're right. The Lariat's often seen as the just right option in the F-250 lineup. Not too basic, not too fancy, but with a lot of great features without getting too expensive.
Okay, so break it down for me. What makes the Lariat so special?
Well, one of the big things is the Ford Co-Pilot 360 system. It's basically a whole bunch of driver assist technologies to help you be safer and more aware on the road. Things like blind spot monitoring, lane keeping assist, and adaptive cruise control. They're like an extra set of eyes helping you out, especially in a truck this size.
So Co-Pilot 360 is like having a digital co-pilot riding shotgun, helping you stay focused and safe. Especially in a big truck like this, that seems pretty valuable. But how useful is it really? Are some of these features more gimmicky than practical?
I mean, some features might be more useful than others, depending on how you drive. But overall, it's a really good package, especially for long drives, or if you use the truck for work every day. These technologies can help you avoid getting tired and can even prevent accidents.
Okay, so safety and convenience are big priorities in the Lariat. What about comfort and tech features? Anything special there?
Definitely. Inside, you've got a 12-inch digital gauge cluster that you can customize. It shows you all the important vehicle info really clearly. It's a nice upgrade from those old analog gauges. It gives the cabin a much more modern feel.
Right, so it's not just a work truck. It's got some nice tech to make the driving experience better. What else is there in terms of comfort and convenience?
Well, the Lariat comes standard with heated and ventilated front seats, which is great for staying comfortable no matter the weather. Plus, you get a power-adjustable steering wheel and a Bang & Olufsen sound system. Adds a little touch of luxury.
Nice. Those are some good perks. But I imagine all those bells and whistles add to the price. How does the Lariat compare to the other trims cost-wise?
The Lariat starts at $64,740, which is a good chunk more than the base XL trim, which starts at around $48,000. But for that extra money, you're getting a really well-rounded package. With all those safety features, great tech and comfort, that's almost like a luxury vehicle.
So it's an investment for sure, but for someone who uses their truck for both work and personal stuff, the Lariat seems like a good option. Okay, we've covered the tech and comfort, but what about those unique, quirky features that make the F-250 stand out? Anything in the review that surprised you?
One thing that really stood out was the Pro Power onboard system. It basically turns the F-250 into a mobile generator. So you can power tools, appliances, even charge other electric vehicles. It's a super versatile feature for work sites, campsites, or even emergencies.
Wow, that's incredible. I've never heard of a truck that can also be a power station. Do you think people actually use that feature a lot, or is it more of a novelty?
I think it depends on what you need it for. For someone who works on job sites a lot or likes to go off-grid, it could be really useful. You don't need a separate generator, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it definitely adds to the whole do-it-all image of the F-250. Any other hidden gems you found in the review?
Another cool thing is the tailgate down camera and reverse guidance system. They use cameras to help you maneuver the truck, especially when you're towing or backing up in tight spots. It's a great example of how Ford's using technology to make things easier, even in tricky situations.
So they really have thought of everything. Ford clearly put a lot of work into making the F-250 not just powerful and capable, but also easy to use and packed with helpful features. But how does this truck actually perform in real life? What are the critics saying?
Well, critics have given the F-250 a pretty good rating of 8.8 out of 10. They like the engine options, the towing capacity, and the spacious interior. They're especially impressed with how smooth the ride is, even when it's fully loaded. And they like the easy-to-use infotainment system, too.
8.8 out of 10, that's pretty good. Sounds like the F-250 lives up to the hype. But did they mention any downsides or things that could be improved?
There were a couple small criticisms. Some reviewers said the steering could be more precise, and the interior design, while functional, could be a bit more modern.
So just some minor nitpicks. Nothing that would be a deal breaker for most people. Seems like the F-250 is a solid choice in the heavy-duty truck market.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's got a great mix of power capability, comfort, and technology, which makes it a good choice for a lot of different buyers.
Well, we've gone through the F-250's trim levels, checked out some of its best features, and heard what the critics are saying. But we still haven't talked about the big one, fuel economy. We'll tackle that in the last part of our deep dive. Stick around.
All right, we're back for the last part of our F-250 deep dive. We've talked about power and capability, comfort, all of that good stuff. But we got to talk about the elephant in the room, fuel economy.
Yeah, it's definitely the big question, especially with gas prices being what they are. And like we said before, we don't have those official EPA numbers because of the F-250's weight. But we can kind of look at older models and what the competition's doing to get a general idea.
So what are you thinking? Is this thing going to be a gas guzzler? Or will it surprise us with some decent mileage?
Well, for the gas engines, you're probably looking at somewhere between 12 and 15 miles per gallon combined. Not exactly fuel efficient. The diesels might do a bit better, maybe getting up to 18 or even 20 on the highway. But that's all just guessing until we see the real numbers. Yeah, so it's a trade-off, I guess. You get all that power and capability. But you might be spending a bit more at the pump. I'm curious, though. For someone who's seriously considering a truck like this, how important is fuel economy, really?
I think it depends a lot on what you're using the truck for.
Yeah.
If it's mainly for work, hauling heavy stuff all the time, you're probably more focused on towing and payload than fuel economy. But if you're using it for a mix of work and personal stuff, then yeah, fuel costs become a bigger factor.
Right. It's all about finding that balance, what works best for you and what you need the truck to do. Now, before we wrap things up, I want to take a step back for a second. We've been deep in the weeds with the F-250. But are there any other heavy-duty trucks out there worth considering?
We already talked about the Silverado 2500 HT and the Ram 2500. Both are good trucks in their own way. The Silverado's got those standard safety features, and the Ram's all about that luxury interior.
So if safety's your top priority, the Silverado might be worth a look. And if you want all the bells and whistles, the Ram could be a good choice. But at the end of the day, the F-250, the Silverado, and the Ram each have their own strengths and weaknesses.
Exactly. There's no perfect truck for everyone. It all comes down to your individual needs and what you value most.
Well, it looks like we've reached the end of the road for our F-250 deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, from capabilities to features to comparing it with the competition, and we even tackled the mystery of fuel economy.
Yeah, we've explored a lot. Hopefully this has given you a better understanding of the F-250 and what it has to offer.
Exactly. And remember, this is just the beginning. If you're thinking about getting a heavy-duty truck, do your research, test drive a few different models, see what feels right for you, and if you want to go even deeper on the F-250, check out that Truck Report Geeks podcast review you send over. They'll have all the little details we didn't have time for here. Until next time.